The Galactic Council had always prided itself on its unity. The endless meetings held in the grand chambers of its headquarters, in the heart of the Andromeda cluster, were where the most powerful species of the galaxy gathered to shape the future of all known civilizations for centuries. The Valoran people had been a cornerstone of that unity, their fleet, a reliable force that ensured the stability of galactic peace. But all that changed in an instant. Without warning, a decision was made that would echo across the stars in ways no one could predict. The Valoran were labeled traitors, their loyalty suddenly called into question by the very council they had served for so long. The declaration came not through a public trial, but in a cold, faceless decree broadcast across the galaxy. It was as though a line had been drawn through the Valoran's name, and their existence was now an obstacle to the Council's greater ambitions. The Valoran homeworld Valora was a jewel in the galaxy, known for its beauty, its advanced technology, and its deep connection to the stars. But as the first wave of Council warships arrived in its orbit, those who had once called it a friend knew that something dark was unfolding. The Council had deemed them a threat to their power, and it was time to eliminate them. More so, they thought. The attack came swiftly and with overwhelming force. The Valoran fleet, despite being battle-hardened and skilled, was no match for the sheer scale of the assault. Earth had been far from the conflict all this time, remaining on the fringes of galactic politics, observing with a quiet sense of caution. But when the Council's warships began to burn the skies above Valora, and the cry for help was sent out, it was not to the Galactic Council that the Valoran turned, but to Earth. They knew that humanity might be their only chance for survival. They had heard the rumors of Earth's military buildup, the whispers in the darker corners of the galaxy of human ingenuity, and their ability to adapt in ways other species could not. They knew that despite humanity's youth on the galactic stage, their resilience could not be underestimated. The message was a desperate one, echoing across light years of space, through the vast and empty void. It was simple yet full of fear. The Valoran were on the brink, and without immediate help they would fall. The message was sent not in the hopes of political intervention or diplomatic negotiations, but as a final plea for survival. The Valoran fleet was already scattered. Their homeworld was under siege, and the Council's forces showed no sign of halting their campaign. But somewhere deep in the heart of Earth's government the message was received, and it was not ignored. The war councils gathered in secret. Humanity had never been a power to shy away from a fight. In fact, it was often said that humans would rather die fighting than bow to anyone. Earth's leaders knew that this would not be a simple decision, that intervening would draw them into a conflict of unimaginable proportions. But they also knew that if they did nothing, the galaxy would continue to fall into the hands of a corrupt and increasingly power-hungry council. The choice was clear. Humanity would answer the call, and they would do so with all the fire and fury they could muster. And when they did, when Earth's warships finally broke through the distant stars and entered the fray, it would not just be a rescue mission. It would be a statement, a message to the galaxy that humanity had arrived, and that they were not afraid to fight back. Far from the raging conflict in Valora's system, Earth's government had remained largely neutral, observing the events from a distance. Despite the growing tensions across the galaxy, humanity had chosen to focus on their own development, forging ahead in technology and infrastructure without entangling themselves in the constant political battles that shook the stars. Earth was young in galactic terms, and its influence had been limited to its own solar system. But that was about to change. When the distress signal from Valora arrived, it was nothing like Earth had ever received before. The transmission was frantic, a desperate cry for help, laced with fear and uncertainty. The message did not ask for aid in the form of diplomacy or resources, nor was it a request for peace talks. It was a plea for military intervention, Earth's military intervention. The Valoran people, once proud members of the Galactic Council, were being annihilated, their homeworld shattered by the very people they had called allies. Their fleet was decimated, and their civilization teetered on the edge of extinction. In the war rooms of Earth's government, the message was met with stunned silence. Captain Iris Calloway, a seasoned military strategist and the commander of Earth's newly developed warships, was the first to speak. "This isn't a simple diplomatic incident," she said, her voice steady, yet with an edge of determination. This is an attack on an entire species, a betrayal of the highest order. If we don't respond, the galaxy will remember us as the silent bystanders, while millions perish. There was no hesitation after that. The decision was made. Earth would not sit idle. A massive military campaign was launched in secret, the likes of which the galaxy had never seen. Earth's warships, built in the shadows of the solar system and fueled by cutting-edge technology, would be sent to Valora's aid. They were fast, efficient, and powered by an advanced form of artificial intelligence that could think faster and more strategically than any living commander. These ships were humanity's response to a galaxy that had underestimated them for far too long. But Earth's leaders were not naive. They knew the consequences of their actions. The Galactic Council, which had once embraced the Valoran as allies, would not take kindly to this interference. Earth was stepping into a war that had already claimed thousands of lives, and the Council's forces were not known for mercy. Yet the alternative, doing nothing, was worse. Humanity's entry into the conflict was not just a military decision. It was a moral one. As Earth's fleet assembled, the atmosphere was electric with anticipation. There was a palpable sense of unity among the men and women who had volunteered for this mission. They knew they were not just fighting for the survival of the Valoran, but for the future of the galaxy itself. The hope was that their arrival would send a powerful message, that Earth was not a passive observer in the cosmic dance, but a force that could stand up to tyranny and oppression, no matter the odds. The fleet was ready. Thousands of ships, sleek and powerful, each equipped with the latest in human weaponry, took to the stars. Their mission was clear: stop the Council's assault on Valora, and show the galaxy that Earth would not tolerate injustice. But there was something more at stake, a much larger game being played by those in power on both sides. As the warships set course for Valora, none of them knew that this mission would change the course of history forever. As Earth's fleet made its way toward the Valoran system, there was a sense of urgency that had not existed in galactic politics for centuries. The deep silence of space was filled with the hum of engines and the occasional exchange between the crew members aboard the ships. Captain Iris Calloway stood on the bridge of the flagship, the Elysium, watching the stars streak past as they hurtled toward a war that could alter the very fabric of galactic power. The fleet was vast, far larger than anything Earth had ever deployed. Each ship was a marvel of human engineering, sleek, fast, and armed with cutting-edge technology. These were no ordinary vessels. They were warships born from Earth's desperation and ingenuity. They were equipped with AI systems that could adapt to changing circumstances on the fly, making every tactical move unpredictable and deadly. Each ship had been designed to outthink and outmaneuver any force in the galaxy, and their advanced railguns, plasma torpedoes, and energy shields made them a formidable presence in space. But despite the advanced technology, Earth was still a newcomer on the galactic stage, and the soldiers aboard each ship were acutely aware of the challenge ahead. The Galactic Council had resources far beyond Earth's, and its fleets had been entrenched in the galaxy for millennia. There was no guarantee of victory, just the certainty that they had no choice but to try. As the fleet approached the Valoran system, a communication came in from the Valoran command center. The signal was weak, broken by the chaos of battle, but the message was clear. The Valoran forces were barely holding on. The Council's ships had already shattered their outer defenses and were making their way toward the planet's surface, intent on wiping out any remaining resistance. It was a race against time. The humans had to arrive before Valora's defenses collapsed entirely. "Set course for Valora," Captain Calloway ordered, her voice calm but resolute. "We need to get there before the Valoran are destroyed." The fleet accelerated, pushing their engines to their limits. As they neared the system, they could see the smoke trails of battle in the distance, plumes of fire and debris, marking where the Valoran's final defense lines had been. Earth's ships didn't hesitate. They formed up, quickly locking into a formation that would maximize their firepower and minimize their vulnerability. The battle to save Valoran was about to begin. The first Council ships came into view, their hulking forms surrounded by smaller destroyers and fighters. They were formidable, their sheer numbers intimidating, but Earth's warships didn't flinch. The Elysium fired first, its railguns sending devastating rounds toward the nearest Council destroyer. The explosion lit up the darkened void of space, a brief flash of light before the ship crumpled like paper under the force of the strike. The battle was on. Earth's ships moved with precision, striking from unexpected angles, breaking through the enemy's formations. The Council's forces were stunned by the sudden ferocity of the attack. Earth had arrived, and they were not here to negotiate. They were here to fight. As the chaos unfolded, Captain Calloway monitored the battlefield, her eyes scanning the movements of both sides. Earth's warships were faster, more maneuverable, and their weapons more precise. But it was the AI that set them apart. Unlike the Council's ships, which followed traditional tactics, the human fleet adapted in real time, using unconventional methods that threw the enemy off balance. Every move seemed like a calculated gamble, but it was paying off. Valoran forces, though severely outnumbered, began to rally. Earth's ships had created a window of opportunity for them to strike back, and they did so with a newfound determination. The Valoran knew they couldn't win this fight alone, but with humanity's assistance, they had a chance to survive. The first wave of Council forces was broken, but the fleet knew it wasn't over. This was just the beginning. More ships were coming, and the fight for Valoran was far from won. But for the first time in weeks, there was hope, and it was coming from the unlikeliest of places, Earth. As the battle in the Valoran system raged on, the tides of war were shifting in favor of Earth's fleet. The Council forces, once confident in their overwhelming superiority, were now reeling from the sudden onslaught. Earth's ships, agile and precise, carved through their lines with brutal efficiency. Every strike from the human warships seemed to catch the Council off guard, each maneuver more unpredictable than the last. Captain Iris Calloway stood at the helm of the Elysium, her sharp eyes scanning the battlefield. Her mind was working faster than the AI systems of her ship, anticipating the next move and directing the fleet with calculated precision. "Keep them on the defensive," she ordered, her voice steady, but filled with an undeniable urgency. "Don't give them a chance to regroup." The fleet responded immediately. Every ship in Earth's armada moved as one, cutting through the darkness of space like a predator hunting its prey. The Council, used to being the apex force in the galaxy, had no answers for this new kind of warfare. Earth's warships didn't just strike with brute force. They outsmarted, outflanked, and outmaneuvered the enemy. The AI systems aboard each ship adapted in real time, calculating probabilities and optimizing tactics in the blink of an eye. The Council's ships, however, operated on set protocols, rigid and predictable. And that predictability was what made them vulnerable. The Valoran defenders, emboldened by Earth's success, launched their own counteroffensive. With the sudden assistance from the human fleet, they regained their footing. Fighter squadrons launched from Earth's ships and the Valoran's remaining carriers, their plasma cannons and pulse lasers lighting up the void as they tore through the Council's defensive lines. The Valoran had long been known for their bravery, but their numbers were dwindling, and their ships were outmatched by the sheer firepower of the Council. Now, with Earth's technological superiority at their backs, the Valoran found new resolve. The Elysium moved swiftly through the chaos, its weapons striking with deadly precision. Railguns thundered, sending ripples of destruction through the enemy's hulls. Plasma torpedoes fired in quick succession, piercing the shields of the Council's ships and causing them to erupt in brilliant explosions. The sight of Council ships breaking apart before their eyes was a moment of catharsis for the Valoran. The nightmare they had been living through for weeks, of watching their homeworld burn and their people die, began to fade. "Hold the line," Calloway commanded, her grip tightening on the command chair. The tactical display showed that more Council reinforcements were on the way, arriving at a frightening speed. But Earth's fleet was ready. Every ship had been prepared for this moment, trained to respond to any attack, any strategy, with ruthless efficiency. Even now, their weapon systems were locking onto the next target, their AI systems predicting the Council's movements before they could even make them. Incoming fleet. A voice from the communications panel broke through the tense atmosphere. The screen flickered to life, displaying a massive fleet of Council warships emerging from the edge of the system, their massive shadows looming over the battlefield. All ships prepare for the next wave, Captain Calloway said, her voice unwavering. She could feel the weight of the decision that lay ahead. This was no longer just a battle to save the Valoran. This was the beginning of something far bigger. If Earth could continue to hold its ground, it would send a clear message to the Galactic Council that humanity was no longer to be ignored. The moment of truth had arrived. The Elysium surged forward, the rest of the fleet following in formation. The battle was far from over, but with Earth's warships now fully engaged and the Valoran fighting alongside them, the Council's dominance in the galaxy was starting to crumble. And with each passing minute, it became clearer that the galaxy's future would no longer be shaped by the Council alone. Earth's arrival had forever altered the balance of power. The arrival of the next wave of Council reinforcements was as massive as it was overwhelming. Hundreds of warships emerged from hyperspace, their enormous forms dwarfing even the largest ships in Earth's fleet. Their advanced shields flickered to life, and their guns charged, preparing for a devastating counterattack. The odds were once again stacked against Earth, but Captain Iris Calloway didn't flinch. This was the moment she had prepared for, the ultimate test of humanity's resolve. "All ships, form up on my mark," Calloway ordered, her voice calm but authoritative. "We will not break. Hold your fire until I say." The fleet held its ground, their warships positioned in perfect formation, ready to unleash everything they had. Earth's ships had already proven their ability to take on the Council, but the sheer number of enemy ships now before them posed a new challenge. Despite their technological advantage, Earth's forces would have to be precise, their every move deliberate and measured. There was no room for mistakes. "Ready weapons," the officer at the weapons station called out, his fingers hovering over the control panel. "Targeting systems online. We can take them." "Not yet," Calloway replied, watching the enemy ships slowly advance. She needed to time this perfectly. The moment the Council made their first move, Earth's fleet would retaliate with everything they had. The tension was unbearable. The silence on the bridge was deafening, save for the soft hum of the ship's engines and the occasional beeping of the tactical systems. It felt as if the entire universe had paused for just a moment. Then, without warning, the Council fleet fired. Energy blasts ripped through space, bright beams of light cutting through the darkness. The first wave of shots slammed into the outer defenses of Earth's ships, the shields flaring brightly before holding firm. Earth's warships retaliated immediately, launching a barrage of plasma torpedoes and railgun rounds that struck with devastating precision. The battle was now in full swing, but it was clear that this time, the Council was unprepared for the ferocity of Earth's response. The AI aboard Earth's warships adapted in real time, recalculating the enemy's movements and adjusting fire in split seconds. The Elysium led the charge, its railguns booming as it tore through a Council destroyer with a direct hit. The explosion was massive, sending debris scattering across the battlefield. The other ships in Earth's fleet followed suit, their weapons tearing through Council shields and armor with terrifying efficiency. Despite the devastating blows, the Council fleet wasn't finished. They regrouped quickly, launching wave after wave of fighters and bombers to try and overwhelm Earth's forces. But Earth's ships were faster, and their advanced AI predicted every move the enemy made. The Council's fighters were intercepted before they could reach Earth's fleet, their ships destroyed mid-flight by precision laser fire from Earth's interceptors. The battle raged for hours, the vastness of space filled with flashes of destruction and the deafening roar of weapons fire. The Valoran fleet, though still badly weakened, fought alongside Earth's ships with renewed vigor. Their commanders had rallied behind humanity's promise of rescue, and they fought as though their survival depended on it. Because it did. Every Valoran ship that fell was another victory for the Council, but with Earth's warships on their side, the Valoran had a fighting chance. Yet even as Earth's forces pressed the attack, it was clear that this was only the beginning. The Council's leadership had not yet fully grasped the significance of Earth's intervention. They underestimated the tenacity of humanity and the relentless nature of Earth's military. The Council's commanders, once confident in their superiority, were now finding themselves on the defensive for the first time in centuries. "Push them back," Calloway barked, her eyes never leaving the battlefield. "We've got one shot at this. Don't let them recover." And with that, Earth's fleet surged forward again, determined to finish what they had started. The message was now clear to the Council. Humanity was here, and they would not be pushed around. The fight for the Valoran homeworld had become a symbol of resistance, a turning point in the balance of galactic power. Earth's warships had made their mark, and they were not backing down. The battle in the Valoran system had become a fierce, unforgiving struggle. As Earth's fleet pushed forward, every moment felt like it could be the turning point. The Council's forces, despite their size and power, were now on the defensive. Their once confident superiority was crumbling under the relentless pressure of Earth's warships. Yet the Council was not ready to surrender, and they had one final card to play. A secret weapon that had never been used in the field before. As the fight intensified, Captain Calloway could feel the tension building. The ships around her had suffered damage, but nothing too catastrophic yet. The Elysium had taken some hits, but its hull was still intact, and the crew was working tirelessly to keep the systems operational. The AI was constantly recalculating, adjusting strategies as Earth's ships adapted to the enemy's every move. But there was an underlying unease. Something was off. The Council had always been calculating, and Calloway knew they wouldn't just sit back and accept defeat. "Captain, incoming," the tactical officer called, his voice laced with urgency. "Unidentified ships emerging from a cloaked position. They're not on any of our previous intel." Calloway's instincts flared. She turned to the display, eyes narrowing as she saw a massive fleet materialize on the screen. These ships were unlike any the Council had deployed before, sleek, dark, and built for speed. Their design was unfamiliar, almost alien, and the energy readings were off the charts. This was the Council's final weapon, a last-ditch effort to crush humanity's rebellion. "All ships, brace for impact," Calloway ordered. "Target the lead ships and engage." The new enemy vessels fired first, releasing waves of energy that blasted through space at terrifying speeds. Earth's fleet wasn't caught off guard, but the sheer power of the blasts was something none of them had faced before. The shields of the Elysium flared brightly as they absorbed the first wave of energy, but it was clear that they couldn't hold up against this new force for long. "Captain, we've got a serious problem," the chief engineer reported. "The shields won't last much longer. We need to fall back and regroup." But Calloway shook her head. Falling back wasn't an option, not now, not when they were so close. The Valoran people were depending on them, and humanity's message needed to be heard. If they retreated now, everything they had fought for would be lost. "Negative," she replied firmly. "We push forward. We'll use their momentum against them." The Elysium fired back, its railguns roaring to life as the human ships retaliated with every weapon they had. The battle was now two-pronged. Earth's fleet was caught between the original Council forces, still attempting to recover from the earlier assault, and this new wave of dark ships. Yet Earth's forces were relentless, closing in on the enemy, targeting weak points in their new fleet's defenses. But the enemy ships weren't just powerful, they were adaptive. Every time Earth's warships found an opening, the dark ships seemed to shift, their tactics evolving mid-battle. For every council ship that fell, two more seemed to take its place. The balance of power was shifting once again, and Captain Calloway felt the weight of it pressing down on her. They couldn't afford to make a mistake. Earth's fleet was strong, but it wasn't invincible, and the Valoran forces were still struggling to maintain their ground. The battle raged on, Earth's warships continuing to push forward despite the mounting pressure. But as the situation grew more dire, the Valoran defenders, seeing their chance to take a stand, launched a final, desperate assault. Their remaining ships, though damaged and outnumbered, were filled with a fierce resolve. They pushed toward the heart of the enemy formation, taking on fire from all sides as they fought with everything they had. In that moment, Calloway knew that victory was within their grasp. It wouldn't be easy, and it wouldn't be quick, but the Council's reinforcements had underestimated humanity's resolve. Earth's warships weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting to make a statement. They were fighting to prove that humanity would not back down, no matter the odds. "Keep pushing," Calloway shouted, her voice ringing through the command deck. "This is our galaxy now. We'll show them what Earth can do." The battle for Valoran had reached its critical point, and the tides of war were no longer in anyone's favor. Earth's fleet had already sustained heavy damage, but their resolve was unyielding. The Valoran defenders fought with all the strength they had left, their ships engaging the dark enemy fleet in a desperate attempt to turn the tide. Captain Iris Calloway stood firm at the helm of the Elysium, the hum of the ship's engines vibrating through her as the sensors picked up multiple incoming attacks. "We've lost contact with the forward scouts," the communications officer reported. "It looks like they're being overwhelmed. Should we send reinforcements?" Calloway didn't hesitate. "No, we push through. No more reinforcements. We've got to break their lines now, or all of this is for nothing." The dark enemy ships, the new force brought in by the Council, were showing their true strength. Their weapons fired relentlessly, their shields seemed impenetrable, and their adaptability on the battlefield was unlike anything Earth's fleet had ever encountered. Every time Earth's ships found a weakness, the Dark Fleet would adapt and evolve. It felt as though the Council had thrown their final, most powerful asset at them. But Earth had no choice but to face it head-on. "Captain, we're losing ships at the outer perimeter," the tactical officer reported, urgency creeping into his voice. "The new enemy ships are too fast. They're picking off our flanks." Calloway's grip tightened on the console. There was no time to waste. "Send a full fleet-wide signal. No one falls back. We fight together. This is our last chance to strike a blow that matters." The communication was transmitted across the fleet, and the humans, from the flagship to the smallest destroyers, rallied together. The Valoran ships, seeing Earth's resolve, fought with renewed fury. The shared purpose between the two forces, once seen as improbable allies, had become something much more than survival. It was about proving that the galaxy would not be ruled by the oppressive and manipulative Galactic Council. Humanity and the Valoran were standing as one, their bonds forged in the heat of battle. In a synchronized strike, Earth's ships coordinated with the Valoran forces, advancing on the Dark Fleet's weak spots. Railguns fired in perfect synchronization, plasma torpedoes arced through space, and the AI systems guiding Earth's warships calculated their next move faster than any Council officer could predict. Every shot that hit the dark ships seemed to chip away at their impenetrable shell, but the enemy wasn't going down without a fight. "We're pushing them back," the tactical officer shouted, his voice tinged with disbelief. "They're scattering. There's a fracture in their formation." It was a small victory, but it was enough to spark a glimmer of hope across the fleet. The human ships, with their overwhelming firepower and tactical precision, were managing to create cracks in the Dark Fleet's defenses. Still, the fight was far from over. Council reinforcements continued to pour into the system, their massive ships intimidating but slow to adapt. The Council might have been losing ground, but their command structure remained steadfast. They wouldn't give up without an even fiercer battle. "Prepare for the final push," Captain Calloway said, turning to her crew. Her voice was steady, but beneath the surface, the weight of the situation was heavy. "We need to break through their center. Focus fire on their flagship." The Elysium surged forward with the rest of the fleet in tow, targeting the heart of the dark enemy formation. As they closed in on the flagship, the full power of Earth's arsenal unleashed. The warship's railguns fired in rapid succession, each shot landing with pinpoint accuracy. The Elysium's AI had already calculated the best approach, predicting the flagship's movements with uncanny precision. Explosions rocked the enemy ship as Earth's forces hammered it from all angles. The Dark Fleet's flagship, despite its formidable defenses, began to show signs of weakness. With each devastating strike, it faltered. And when the final shot from Elysium's main railgun hit, the flagship exploded in a burst of fire and debris, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. The sight of the enemy flagship crumbling was a turning point. The remaining dark ships, disoriented and unable to regroup in time, were now at the mercy of Earth's fleet. The Valoran defenders pressed the advantage, their remaining forces engaging the disorganized dark ships with everything they had. But even as victory seemed within reach, Captain Calloway knew the fight was far from over. The Council would not simply fade into the shadows. There were more battles to come, and the war for the galaxy's future had only just begun. But for now, Earth's fleet had made its mark. The message was clear. Humanity would not be silenced. The battle was far from over, but the turning point had come. As the Dark Fleet's flagship disintegrated into space debris, a wave of uncertainty rippled through the remaining Council forces. Their once formidable warships, now leaderless and disorganized, were beginning to falter. Earth's fleet, though battered, held firm. The Valoran ships, reinvigorated by the sight of the Council's downfall, pressed forward with renewed determination, targeting the weaker sections of the dark enemy fleet. "Captain, we've broken their lines," the tactical officer announced, his voice filled with disbelief and relief. "The Dark Fleet is scattering. We've got them on the ropes." Calloway allowed herself a brief moment of satisfaction before tightening her focus once more. The war was far from won. The remaining Council ships, though now vulnerable, were not yet defeated. The galaxy's fate still hung in the balance. The tactical advantage was theirs, but the final push would determine everything. "Keep up the pressure," Calloway ordered, her voice calm but firm. "We don't stop until they're completely broken." Earth's warships continued their assault, moving with deadly precision. The AI systems aboard the ships had already adapted to the shifting battlefield, calculating each move with split-second accuracy. The enemy ships, once so powerful and confident, were now struggling to maintain any semblance of cohesion. Railguns fired relentlessly, sending shockwaves through the Dark Fleet. Plasma torpedoes arced through the void, and energy shields flickered and failed as Council ships were torn apart. The Valoran, now fully engaged in the battle, fought side by side with Earth's forces, taking down enemy ships one after another. The sight of their flagships falling was symbolic. For the first time in weeks, they had hope. The Valoran, once struggling to hold their ground against the overwhelming might of the Council, were now witnessing their enemies crumble under Earth's superior tactics and firepower. It was a sight of triumph they never thought possible. But even as the Council forces began to break, Calloway knew they weren't finished. The core of the Council still held power, and they would not let their loss here go unanswered. Earth's victory in the Valoran system was a monumental shift, but it was only the beginning of a much larger war. The Council would retaliate. They would regroup and come back stronger, more determined than ever to crush humanity's defiance. But in that moment, as the remnants of the Dark Fleet turned and fled, the message was clear. Humanity was no longer a minor player in the galactic theater. "Captain, we've done it," the communications officer reported. "The last of their ships are retreating. The Valoran homeworld is secure." The words hung in the air, almost too incredible to believe. The Valoran had been saved. Against all odds, Earth's fleet had done the impossible. The Elysium had led the charge, and humanity had proven to the galaxy that they were more than capable of standing against the most powerful empire in existence. "Not yet," Calloway replied, her voice steady as ever. "We've won this battle, but there's still a war to fight." The Valoran system had been secured, but Captain Calloway knew that the battle had only just begun. Earth had made its mark, but the fight for the future of the galaxy would require more than just firepower. It would require unity, strategy, and an unwavering resolve. The Council would return, but humanity would be ready. "We've sent them a message," Calloway said, her eyes scanning the battlefield. "And they're going to hear it loud and clear." The victory at Valoran was just the first step in a much larger struggle for the freedom of the galaxy. Earth had shown that they would not be intimidated, that they would stand against the forces of oppression. The Council might have thought they could rule the galaxy with an iron fist, but humanity had proven otherwise. As Earth's warships continued to patrol the system, the crew aboard the Elysium knew that the journey ahead would not be easy. But they also knew that they had sent a clear message to the galaxy. Humanity would fight for its place among the stars, and they would not back down.